things first.
Hi, I'm Matt Long. I'm a partner with Long and Simmons Law. We're a criminal defense firm that also represents victims and those who've been injured by accidents and crimes. A lot of people are asking me, what do I think about this baton to the head track event? Well, in order to understand, first things first, don't talk to police or the press if there's a possibility of an investigation. There was a 12-minute interview that the person who's been accused of assaulting somebody on a track gave to the press. And that was a mistake. And I understand when things go viral, you want to get out there and get your story, your side of the story to be heard, but that's a bad idea, and we're going to talk about that and some of the things that were said in this interview. But in order to break down this particular incident, especially in Arizona, you have to understand what assault even is. This girl, this athlete said, what about my mental? Well, what's she mean about my mental? When she was saying that, she was talking about what about my emotions and my feelings. But she raised an interesting point because it really is about her mental state. And she also said, I know my intentions. She says, I didn't purposefully hit her in the head with that baton. Well, for assault, a person either intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly causes any physical injury. So if she didn't intentionally cause that injury, if she didn't intend to injure her, that still doesn't mean that she might not be guilty or at least charged with a crime. Because if she reared that thing back and struck, she knowingly hit that person and caused the injury. She doesn't have to intend to cause the injury. She has to intentionally or knowingly or recklessly cause any physical injury. Well, what's a physical injury? Any physical injury, it could be a red mark, it could be a bruise, it could be abrasion, it could be a cut. Generally something that can be healed. Now, if that's the case in Arizona, and I'm talking about Arizona because unfortunately in schools these days, kids are getting charged with what used to be normal school kids stuff all the time. Intentionally or knowingly, well, that's a class 1 misdemeanor. If it's recklessly, well, that's a class 2 misdemeanor. So at the very least, based on what we're looking at, she was at least recklessly caused any physical injury. Now, people may ask, what about the use of a baton? Well, the use of a baton changes things because in Arizona, there's aggravated assault. And aggravated assault is if you use a deadly weapon, which what that really means is a gun, which is something that is designed to cause death. Well, that's not the case. So then the question is the baton a dangerous instrument? Well, a dangerous instrument is anything in the manner in which it's used that could reasonably cause death or a serious physical injury. What does serious physical injury mean? Any attorney who wants to look at definitions should go to a book which tells you exactly what it is. And these are the laws in Arizona. Serious physical injury includes physical injury that creates a reasonable risk of death or that causes serious or permanent disfigurement, serious impairment of health, or loss or protracted impairment of the function of any bodily organ or limb. Generally, that can mean a fracture. Now, in this case, there was a question about whether or not this person that was hit on the head had a skull fracture. She was apparently went to the hospital and looked into that, but the reports are that she had a concussion. So does a concussion raise to the level of being a serious physical injury? Well, that's going to be a question for a doctor. So, unlikely, but it's possible that this event could be considered an aggravated assault but is probably at least an assault recklessly as a class 2 misdemeanor. But there's another mental state that exists, and that's what she says happened, which is an accident. And that mental state is negligence. Now, negligence, well, that's a civil claim, suing people for money. So even if it was an accident, this athlete could be accused of and liable for, at a minimum, a civil claim which relates to money. But that's just kind of an overview about the law in Arizona. The real lesson here is about the statements that were made. Oh, I was going to talk about different types of dangerous instruments. A hammer, if it's used, right, as a blunt force instrument, that certainly could be the case. A pen, if it's used as a stabbing device, that could be a dangerous instrument. A sock could be a dangerous instrument. How could a sock be a dangerous instrument? Well, if it's used as a ligature around the neck, that could certainly be a dangerous instrument. So it's really in the manner in which it's used. So the question is does this aluminum baton raise to the level of a dangerous instrument? These are questions of fact, sometimes legal questions that based on experts and other people who might be involved. But again, the real lesson here is about this athlete's statements. And I'm going to break them down a little bit and show you some of the problems and why attorneys always recommend don't talk about the incident if you're under investigation.
How the race was going up into that. Talk to me about that.
So I received the baton. I second leg merges, so when I was merging, I was like, okay, I'm doing good. I only see one person in front of me.
You're going to hear a smoke detector go off all the time.
I'm something yellow in my
Told that's a
peripheral
thing.
with her
I don't know.
uniform. And she was so close to me that my baton kept hitting her. And it's either keep hitting her or fall into the metal railing that's on the main track. So.
Okay, right here. First of all, somebody should have prepared her better. Because she says initially, she starts hitting her with the baton. First of all, bad use of phrase. She might have wanted to say it was brushing up against her. But one of the problems with making these statements is right here, she's acknowledging that she knew she was close to her and she was hitting her with this baton. But the other thing she said, that either she was getting run into or she might be ran into a guardrail. The problem with that statement is when you look at the video, there's no guardrail to be found. See, these types of statements that may cause police or prosecutors to want to go forward. Because now she's blaming the other person and she's saying that there was some sort of excuse, but she can now be proved potentially, at a minimum, a bad narrator, an unreliable narrator, or even perhaps a liar.
After a couple times hitting her, my baton got stuck behind her back like this and it rolled up her back. I lost my balance, and when I pumped my arms again, she got hit. She was cutting in when it happened, when she should have waited a little bit longer. But she cut in too quick, so she was so close to me that she got hit when I was running. So, yeah.
So, here again, at this point, this athlete believed that there was only one angle. Unfortunately for her, there were multiple angles. And now as you start looking at this other angle, what she was just describing about coming straight down isn't really supported by this other angle. And here again, she's spending time blaming the person who got injured. That's something that police may consider. And it may make them care a little more about this matter. And it may make prosecutors care more about this matter if you make these statements. This is why even the best of intentions of statements can be used against you and will be used potentially against her. And I'm guessing that's what's happening.
So that whole, the collision that people see, and like you explained it, you're pumping your arm, getting ready to run forward, and that's where that forward motion comes from. That was not you intentionally striking her with that baton, right?
Again, the angle shows that she's to her right and she's not coming straight down. Now look, the press is not your friend. This reporter is trying to help her out, but in doing this, she's not. She's just putting her in position, exploiting her effectively so that she can get the statement. But she's the one that's got to, going to be responsible for having to explain this, not the reporter. You can't trust police, you can't trust the press, you can't trust politicians, and you can't trust prosecutors. The best advice, don't talk if you're under investigation.
When you see that video has gone viral and you read the hurtful comments and you see people who don't know you at all making comments like that.
Here again, when you're showing emotion based on how you've been affected by something rather than the harm you caused, that might not help you out very much. I don't think it's going to help her out. As I'm watching this, I'm really concerned for her. Concerned that the police now are going to care more about this case than they otherwise would have. And look, remember, she is still a kid. She's a minor. She's a high schooler. People are allowed to have one bad day and even one bad 9 seconds that might be a misdemeanor without it being about her being a horrible person or a monster.
It's like, they're going off of one angle, like.
Yeah, see, there's a problem. She's making a statement believing there's only one angle, and there's multiple angles. And this is why you just shouldn't make statements, because you think you can make an argument, you think you can make a defense based on limited information, and based on that what was that one angle that she saw. And then that second angle, well, it ends up pretty much obliterating her version of what happened. Don't talk to police or the press if you're under investigation.
I know what happened, but I don't have enough. Like, they went on the news. I'm just a person by myself. Nobody's gonna believe me, because I can admit from the video it does look purposeful, but I know my intentions, and I would never hit somebody on purpose because of jealousy. It's plenty of people. I know I'm not the best at track. I applaud her for being such a great runner. I would never hit somebody because of jealousy. And it's like, at the end of the day, I'm a child too. And I'm sorry. I didn't intentionally hit her. I didn't know it was going to cause a concussion. I didn't know all of this was going to happen. I would never do that to somebody on purpose. Literally, when I used to play basketball, I literally used to apologize in the middle of the game. Like, nobody does it. I'm not the type to hit somebody on purpose. Like, I've never been in a fight. I've always been on a road. I never get calls home. So there's people making, like, just off of a 9-second video, they're assuming my character, calling me ghetto, racist slurs, death threats, all of this just because of a 9-second video. And but if you look at the video.
All right, nobody's saying, well, maybe some people are saying she hit her because of jealousy. And it may be true that she's never gotten into a fight. It may be true that she doesn't get in trouble and she's an honor roll. Sometimes people have one bad moment, one bad day, one impulsive act that still has the effect of causing an injury to someone. And that's enough. That's enough to be an assault. Now, just because an assault may have happened, or just because an accident that happened that might have hurt somebody, well, the other question is, what should we do about it? Should she be charged? Should she be sued? If she is charged, what should be the result of one bad day? Do we want jail? Do we want this to be on a record? I mean, those are all questions that need to be considered, rather than just saying she done something and so she needs to be punished. Punished how? These are all questions we've got to explore a little bit more, and that we do explore in the criminal justice system all the time. People ask me all the time, how do you defend people you know done it? And I always say, what do you mean? What do you mean by know? And what do you mean by done it? Done what? I don't know that somebody's guilty until I know exactly what the government is accusing a person of. So if a government comes forward and accuses this athlete of an aggravated assault using a dangerous instrument, well, that would be an easy thing to defend. If it's just saying that she was recklessly caused an injury, well, that might be a little more difficult to defend, especially when you've got a bunch of angles of the video. As they say, the eye in the sky don't lie.
And see, she caused me to trip, and when I caught myself, she got hit. You know, like if you're driving a car and you can't merge just because you feel like it. You know, if you get ran into from the back, it's still your fault. Everybody
All
else.
right, maybe she shouldn't have provided that analogy, right? Because yeah, if somebody does merge in without enough room, they might be partially at fault, depending on the circumstance. But that person behind them has to back off and can't run into that person. Otherwise, they're at fault too. So that was a bad analogy and a bad defense. The thing is, here again, why you don't make statements, she is constantly presenting herself as the absolute innocent good guy and the person who got hit as the one that is at fault. Those are bad statements. Those are bad statements, especially given the video. And this is what we seem to be teaching our kids more and more, that we just deny everything. Also, why you shouldn't make statements, because sometimes the first defense that you think about isn't really the best one because it's not the truthful one. The best defense is something that's founded in truth and evidence. And in order to understand what that is, you first have to make sure you have all the evidence to understand what actually happened. Because the thing is this, I don't think she's lying. I think she looked at the recording, at the one side that she saw, and in the heat of the moment, this is how she remembers it. This is how most people operate, from a place of implicit bias. So I don't believe she's lying. I think she really wants to believe this is what happened. But when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're in a race like this and you're impulsive, you generally don't have great memory, and you're trying to piece together what happened from a limited place. Again, another reason why given statements to police, given statements to the press, given recorded statements that can be used against you, are so problematic and end up putting you in a bad situation.
You're not thinking of my mental, right?
And I'm thinking about your mental state.
Hundreds of thousands of people attacking me, and all of like her family is thinking of, oh, my daughter's hurt, so I don't care about her feelings, you know. And at the end of the day, I'm still a minor too. I'm still in high school. Colleges looking at me. Well, what do you think people are gonna think? Like, I know what happened, but from the video, they'd be like, oh, that's that girl. I don't want her on my team, you know? So, yeah.
So, what do you think? What do you think she should be charged with, if anything? And what do you think the punishment should be? She did something, but if so, so what? I'm Matt Long. I'm a partner with Long and Simmons Law. And often, situations involving violence and injury are a lot more complicated than they seem.